The sky above Earth's northern sector shimmered, blue and calm until the clouds split like paper and fire rained down. Captain Elian, stationed at Earth's orbital border, watched in shock as strange, angular alien ships punched through the atmosphere. They bore symbols no human recognized, moving in silence and precision like predators. "They're not responding to hails," shouted Commander Wren from behind. "They're heading straight toward the Terran wildlife zones." Elian narrowed his eyes. Why would a hostile force target protected animal preserves? They didn't have time to guess. Earth's defense grid kicked in. Missiles launched. Shields rose. The silent invaders fired back and a full-scale war erupted within minutes. But this wasn't a normal invasion. Down on the surface, deep in a thick forest reserve known for housing Earth's rarest beasts, a young alien girl crouched beside a stream. Her skin shimmered lavender, her long white hair flowing over her shoulders. She wore a sleek diplomatic uniform now soaked from the rain. She was not part of the attacking fleet. Her name was Zerali, Princess of the Veilari, a peaceful Starborn race who had just recently made first contact with humanity. She had been on a goodwill mission, learning Earth's cultures, joining human researchers in their wildlife zones, until her people were suddenly at war with Earth. She didn't understand it. There had been no declaration, no warning, no signal. Just the bombs. Now she was alone. The humans she'd studied with had fled or been killed. Her communicator was broken. The animals around her scattered in fear except one, a massive horned beast stood across the stream, snorting steam from its nostrils. It was nearly 3 meters tall, covered in black fur, with thick curving horns like polished bone. Zerali had seen it before. Humans called it a buffalo. It stared at her, unmoving. She stared back. Just then, a human voice yelled in the distance, "Over here! I saw movement near the ridge." Zerali panicked. She didn't know if they were soldiers, hunters, or part of Earth's defense. She couldn't risk being shot on sight. She ducked behind a tree and stepped on a branch. It cracked loudly. The buffalo charged. Zerali screamed and dove to the side. The beast thundered past her and straight into the path of the approaching humans. What happened next left her stunned. Instead of fleeing from the massive creature, one of the human men, a tall soldier with a short beard and scratched armor, raised his weapon and shot it square in the head. The buffalo fell with a loud thud. "Nice shot, Captain," said the other soldier. The man grunted. "Perfect. Battle. Feed the entire camp." Zerali's jaw dropped. Feed? Did she hear that correctly? She stayed hidden, trying to control her breathing. She watched in horror as the humans began slicing into the fallen beast with practiced ease, removing its skin and muscle. They laughed and chatted as they worked. Zerali's stomach turned. Her species didn't eat animal flesh. The Veilari were strictly bioorganic, living off synthesized nutrients and plant proteins. The idea of killing something intelligent, something beautiful, and eating it, it was beyond comprehension. That's when her foot slipped, sending rocks tumbling down the hill. Both soldiers turned sharply. There! The one called Captain raised his weapon again, but stopped. He saw her eyes, glowing pale green. Terrified, she raised her hands, trembling. I am not your enemy," she stammered in accented English. "I am Zerali of the Veilari, diplomatic student. Please." The soldier lowered his weapon, squinting at her. "You're one of them," he said, almost to himself. "But not an attacker?" Zerali shook her head rapidly. "I don't know why they are attacking. I don't know anything about this war." Silence hung in the air. The second soldier looked nervous. "Captain, orders are clear. Any non-human during wartime." "I know what the orders are," the captain snapped. He looked at Zerali again. Something in her expression struck him. Not fear. Not guilt. Just confusion. We'll take her to HQ. Let command decide. As they escorted her toward the human base, she looked back at the now dead buffalo. Her stomach churned. Do all humans eat these horned beasts? She asked quietly. The second soldier grinned. Oh yeah, barbecue jerky, stew, you name it. Geraldine blinked, horrified. That creature. It looked noble, proud. You consume. It like grass? Lady, the man laughed, on Earth we eat everything. She said nothing, but her mind raced. What kind of species are these humans? Geraldine sat quietly in the back of the human vehicle, her hands still trembling. She had never been so close to weapons, blood, or dead animals before. Everything felt strange, loud, rough. The humans called the vehicle a jeep. It bounced over the dirt trail, throwing dust into the air. The soldier who had shot the beast, Captain Raiden, was driving. The younger one, Corporal Milo, sat beside him, keeping a watchful eye on her. Geraldine didn't speak much. She just stared out the window at the green forests, her mind still stuck on what she saw. Buffalo jerky is the best, Milo said, trying to make conversation. Dry it up, salt it. Tastes amazing. Geraldine swallowed hard. Why do you eat such creatures? Are they dangerous to you? Raiden shrugged. Not really. We hunt some, protect others. Depends on the species. But buffalo? They're food animals. Always have been. Geraldine blinked, but they seem intelligent. They form herds. They care for their young. Raiden glanced at her through the rearview mirror. So do chickens. And pigs. Doesn't stop. U.S. She looked away, feeling cold inside. After a few more miles, the jeep rolled to a stop in a small military outpost. The area was surrounded by tall fences and armed guards. Tents were set up in neat rows, and the smell of smoke and cooked meat filled the air. Geraldine covered her nose. That smell. What is that? Dinner, Milo grinned. You'll get used to it. Raiden stepped out and opened her door. Come on, let's get you checked. They walked her through the base. Some soldiers stared at her, curious, suspicious, or both. A few muttered things under their breath. She's one of them. She doesn't look like a warrior. She's probably a spy. Geraldine felt the eyes burning into her. She kept her head low. Inside the main tent, a woman in uniform stood up. Her name tag said Colonel Hayes. Raiden saluted. Ma'am. Found this Valerie girl in Sector C. She claims she's not with the attackers. Hayes raised an eyebrow. Is that so? Geraldine stepped forward, speaking carefully. I was here to study Earth with human researchers. I do not know who started this war. I am not a soldier. Hayes studied her for a moment, then she nodded slowly. You'll be held here under watch until we know more. Geraldine wanted to protest but didn't. She could see they didn't trust her. And maybe she didn't trust them either. That night, Raiden brought her food on a metal tray. It had strange shapes. Brown meat, white mashed roots. A red sauce. Geraldine stared at it. Is this also from an animal? Raiden sighed. Yeah, that's beef, from cattle, same family as the buffalo. She pushed the tray away. I can't. Raiden leaned on the table. You'll need strength. You don't have to like it. But if you stay on Earth during wartime, you better understand how we live. She looked up at him, eyes firm. On my world, to eat a creature with eyes is a crime. It is. Disrespect to life. Raiden scratched his chin. Earth is different. Out here, it's eat or be eaten. Just then, Milo entered the tent with a data pad. Ma'am, we got a report. One of the downed alien ships had live comms before it crashed. We decoded it. He turned the screen to show Jirali. She leaned forward. Her eyes widened. The signal wasn't from the Lari leaders. It was from a rogue warlord Commander Droke, a separatist who had broken off from the Valeri High Council years ago. He had hijacked the fleet. Jirali gasped. That's not a government mission. Droke is a criminal. My people don't support him. Raiden and Hayes exchanged glances. This changes things. Hayes muttered. Later that night, Jirali stood near the edge of the camp, staring at the stars. Raiden walked over, arms folded. You okay? She nodded slowly. On my world, we look up at the sky and see peace. Here, the stars feel heavy. Raiden sighed. It's always been like this for us. Struggle. Fight. Eat to live. Live to fight. She looked at him. Is there no beauty in your way? He pointed to the stars. There's beauty in surviving, even when it's hard. Jirali paused. Maybe that's why humans are so strong. He smiled faintly. And maybe that's why your people are so gentle. They stood in silence. The smell of meat still filled the air. And deep in her heart, Jirali knew something had changed. Not just the war. She was starting to understand humans, but she wasn't sure she liked what she was learning. Jirali woke up to the sound of loud voices outside her tent. The sky was still dim with morning fog, but the human camp was already alive with movement. She stepped outside, wrapping her arms tightly around her thin robe. Soldiers were busy loading crates, sharpening blades, and checking their gear. The scent of burning wood and cooked meat hung in the air. She had barely taken a few steps when she saw it laid across a metal table in the center of the camp. Another dead beast. Its long horns curved upward like the branches of a tree. Its fur was deep red, its body massive. Several humans were cutting into it with sharp tools. They laughed as they worked, throwing chunks of raw flesh into crates labeled field supply. Jirali stood frozen. She recognized the creature. It was a thornhorn, one of the rarest species on Earth. The researchers she worked with had called it a protected being sacred to many native human cultures. Why are they cutting it? She whispered. Captain Raiden appeared beside her. It died in the crossfire last night, explosions from the battle. We don't waste meat during war. Jirali looked up at him, eyes wide. But this animal was special. You told me your people have rules laws. Why break them? Raiden exhaled slowly. War changes everything. Survival comes first. She couldn't look away. Blood soaked the table. Pieces of the creature's insides were being removed. Skinned, separated, packaged. It made her feel sick. Rayd and gently touched her arm. Come on, you don't need to see this. But Jirali pulled away. No, she said quietly. I must see. If I am to understand your people, I must see everything. Later, inside the main tent, Colonel Hayes stood before a large hollow map. Red zones blinked across the surface battle sites. Crashed ships. Civilian evacuations. Jirali stood nearby silent, watching the humans plan. Our scouts confirmed. Hayes said. Droke's faction is using animal-rich regions as cover. They know we won't bomb too close to nature zones. They're using Earth's wildlife as shields? Raiden asked. Hayes nodded. Cowards. Jirali stepped forward. Then, your people must protect these zones, not destroy them. Hayes turned to her. We're trying. But your own kind is using nature against us, and right now, we don't know who we can trust. Jirali hesitated. If I can speak with someone, perhaps my embassy survived. There is no embassy left, Hayes interrupted sharply. Droke's fleet bombed it first, wiped it clean. Jirali felt a pain in her chest. The humans weren't lying. Her people innocents were being used as tools in this war. And the humans were being forced to fight back, even if it meant destroying what they valued. Raiden saw her face drop. Jirali, maybe there's still a way to end this, together. She looked at him with sad eyes. Your kind values strength. My kind values life. How can we ever find peace? Raiden reached into his jacket and pulled out a small device. He pressed a button. A screen flickered to life, showing an image of him with a little girl smiling, standing next to a smaller horned creature. That was my daughter, he said softly. She raised a calf. Name was Noro. She cried the day it died of old age. Jirali blinked. You raised one and didn't eat it? He chuckled. We're not all monsters. Some of us love animals too, but we also know life comes with death. That's Earth. She sat down, thinking hard. Maybe this wasn't about cruelty. Maybe it was about how different their worlds were. Maybe humans didn't eat to destroy but to survive. Their way of life wasn't evil. It was just alien to her that evening. Milo returned from patrol carrying something strange in his hands. What is that? Jirali asked. Gift, he grinned. For you? He unwrapped it carefully, a small loaf of bread wrapped in dried leaf with soft plant paste inside. No meat, he smiled. Local food, safe for you. Jirali's eyes lit up. You made this? He nodded proudly. My grandmother's. Recipe. She took a small bite. Warm, soft, slightly sweet. She closed her eyes. This is wonderful. For the first time since the war began, she smiled. Milo laughed. Told you we don't eat everything. Raiden approached, holding a datapad. Jirali, we need your help. There's a crashed pod in Sector D. We think a Valerie survivor is sending a distress call. Jirali stood. Then we must go. If we reach them before Drok's forces, maybe we can prove we're not enemies. Raiden nodded. Gear up. We leave in 10. As they prepared to move, Jirali took one last look at the table where the beast had once been. It was now empty. Clean. But in her heart, a question still echoed. Can two species with such different hearts ever truly understand one another? The sky was overcast as Captain Raiden's squad moved through the dense forest of Sector D. The trees here were thicker, and the ground was soft with wet leaves. Birds flew overhead. Strange Earth-native insects buzzed low across the tall grass. Jirali walked beside the soldiers, her steps careful. She wore a borrowed human vest and carried a small scanner. It wasn't a weapon, but it made her feel useful. Raiden walked ahead, eyes scanning the trees. Keep your eyes open. If Drok's scouts are around, they'll hit us before we even see them. Signal strength is rising, Jirali said, looking at her device. We're close. Maybe 300 human meters. Good, Raiden nodded. We move fast. Corporal Milo jogged to catch up. Captain, you think it's really a Valerie survivor? Not a trap? Raiden glanced at Jirali. We're about to find out. They found a crash site near a broken cliff edge. A small silver escape pod lay half buried in the earth, smoke still rising from its tail end. Trees around it had been scorched from impact. Raiden raised his hand. Secure the perimeter. Jirali ran forward, heart pounding. The door is jammed. I need a tool. Milo passed her a crowbar. Try this. With careful force, she pried. The hatch opened. Inside, tangled in safety cables and unconscious, was a tall Velari male, his skin the color of wet stone, his breathing shallow. I know him, Jirali gasped. His name is Chiro. He was part of our embassy. He's not military. Raiden stepped in. Get him out, fast. As they lifted Chiro out of the wreckage, a sharp sound cracked through the forest laser fire. Ambush. Someone shouted. Green plasma bolts burst through the trees. Drok's mercenaries had found them. Take cover. Raiden shouted. Pulling Jurali behind a fallen log. Milo and two other soldiers returned fire, pushing back against the shadows moving in the trees. Jurali ducked down, heart racing. They're trying to capture him. He's a witness. They don't want the truth getting out, Raiden growled. Not happening. He aimed his rifle and fired 3 controlled shots. One enemy dropped. Another retreated. Get Shiro too. Safety. He barked. 2 soldiers lifted the wounded Valori and rushed back the way they came. Jurali followed, ducking branches and avoiding fire. Raiden and Milo stayed behind, holding the line. Fall back, Captain. Milo yelled. Go. I'll cover you, Raiden shouted. Jurali screamed, No. But Raiden didn't move. He kept firing, holding off the attackers long enough for the others to escape. An hour later, back at base, Jurali paced in the medical tent as human medics worked on Shiro. His wounds weren't fatal, but he was unconscious. Raiden had returned too bruised, burned, but alive. Jurali rushed to him. You stayed to protect him. Why? Raiden winced, removing his vest. Because the truth matters. If Shiro can tell us who Droke really is, maybe we can stop this madness. She sat beside him, her voice low. You risked your life. That's not what I expected from a species that eats its own animals. Raiden chuckled softly. Maybe we're not all as savage as we seem. That night, Shiro finally woke. Up. His voice was weak. Jurali, you survived. She held his hand. So did you. Rest now, but please tell them what you know. Shiro nodded slowly. Droke stole our fleet. He promised peace, but he only wanted conquest. Our High Council tried to stop him, but he silenced them. Hayes listened carefully, taking notes. And the Valori people? She asked. Shiro's voice cracked. Still peaceful. Still. Wanting alliance. But Droke made it look like all of us were invaders. Raiden looked at Hayes. This changes everything. We need to broadcast this to Earth Command. Jurali nodded. If Earth knows the truth, maybe they'll stop attacking. Innocent Valori. Milo stepped in. Captain, if we want to send that signal off-world, we need the high relay tower sector H, but Droke's got it surrounded. Raiden stood up slowly. Then we'll take it back. Jurali's eyes lit up. Let me come. No, Raiden said firmly. It's dangerous. She stepped forward, voice strong. I must come. If this war ends, my people must see I stood with humans, not against them. Raiden stared at her, then gave a slow nod. All right, suit up. As they prepared for battle, Jurali touched her scanner, then looked toward the stars. Tomorrow. Could change everything, but only if they survived. Asterisk. Dark clouds rolled across the sky as Captain Raiden's team reached the outskirts of Sector Heichi. The high relay tower stood like a giant needle, stabbing the sky. It was Earth's only functioning long-range communication beacon left in the region. If they could get control of it, they could send the truth about Droke's rebellion to both Earth Command and the Valori Council. But the tower wasn't unguarded. Droke's mercenaries had set up patrols around the base. Drones hovered in the air. Hidden plasma cannons guarded the only entrance. Raiden crouched behind a fallen wall with Corporal Milo, Jurali, and 2 other soldiers. They studied the tower through binoculars. 4 snipers on the upper levels, Milo said. 2 sentries near the power core. We need a clean distraction, Raiden muttered. Draw them out, then slip Jurali and the signal team inside. Jurali looked up at the tower, her heart pounding. If we fail, the war continues. And the humans may never know the truth. Raiden met her eyes. Then we don't fail. Minutes later, the squad was in motion. Raiden and Milo moved left, flanking the tower's defenses. They carried EMP. Charges designed to take down drones without explosions. Gerali stayed with Sergeant Vega, the team's tech expert who carried the data file recorded from Chiro. They had to reach the main control room to upload the message. Suddenly, the sky lit up. Boom. An explosion tore through one of the drone nests. "Move!" Raiden yelled through the comms. "That's your window." Gerali and Vega sprinted across. Open ground. Plasma bolts rained down from the tower. One hit nearby, sending dirt flying. But they didn't stop. They reached a side hatch just as Vega hacked the door open with his pad. Inside, the tower was dark and narrow. Lights flickered. The metal walls groaned under pressure. The structure had been damaged by earlier battles. "This way," Vega said, leading her up the staircase. They climbed fast, each level creaking beneath them. Suddenly, footsteps echoed from above. A mercenary spotted them and raised his weapon. Gerali froze, but Vega shot first. The man dropped with a groan. Gerali stared at the body, shaken. Vega whispered, "Keep going." Meanwhile, outside, Raiden's squad engaged in full combat. They fought fiercely, moving between cover, taking out Drok's guards one by one. Raiden ducked behind a crate and shouted into his radio, "Vega, status?" "We're one level away from the core." Vega replied. Raiden gritted his teeth. "Make it count." Inside the tower's top chamber, the control room was in ruins. Screens were shattered. Wires hung from the ceiling. Vega rushed to the main console. Still functional, barely. He plugged in the data chip, uploading Chiro's full report. Signal ready to send. Gerali stepped forward and placed her hand on the final confirmation pad. "This message will go to both our worlds?" "Yes," Vega said. "At once," she hesitated. "And what if they don't believe it?" He looked at her. "Then we keep fighting, but at least we tried." She closed her eyes and pressed her palm down. A soft blue light pulsed. "Signal launched," Vega confirmed. "It's done," but just then, bang. The door exploded inward. Two of Drok's soldiers stormed in. One fired instantly. Vega cried out and dropped to the floor. Gerali screamed. Diving behind a console. Another plasma bolt hit the wall beside her. She looked at Vega, bleeding badly but still alive. The soldier raised his weapon again. Before he could fire, a shadow leapt through the broken door. Raiden tackled him, slamming him into the wall. The second enemy turned only to be hit by Milo's stun baton. In seconds, the room fell silent again. Raiden looked around. "You both okay?" Gerali nodded. "Signal sent." Raiden helped Vega sit up. "Then let's get out of here." An hour later, back at base, a giant screen flickered to life. Shiro's message began to play, his weak voice explaining everything. The rogue nature of Drok's actions. The truth about the peaceful Vaylari. The lies behind the invasion. It was broadcast on all major Earth and Vaylari networks. Soldiers across sectors paused. Commanders watched in silence. People cried. Some cheered. Others simply listened, realizing they had been fighting a war based on a lie. Colonel Hayes stood near the screen, nodding slowly. "This changes the game." Raiden looked at Gerali, who sat quietly in a chair, hands still shaking. "You did it," he said. She shook her head. "We did it." Then she added, "Maybe now your people will see us as more than strange creatures." Raiden smiled. "And maybe your people will stop thinking we're savages." For the first time in days, there was no gunfire. Only hope. The signal had gone out. Across Earth and the stars, both humans and Vaylari were now learning the truth. The war was not a full invasion, it was a lie created by Commander Drok, a rogue Vaylari warlord, but Drok wasn't retreating. Instead, he prepared for one final attack. His warship, dark, sharp like a blade, hovered high in orbit over Sector X, protected by a swarm of loyal drones. The ship's energy core was unstable. Reports said he planned to overload it and crash into Earth's command center in a suicide strike. If he succeeded, thousands would die, both humans and innocent VLARI. In the war room, Colonel Hayes slammed her fist on the table. We can't let him do this. Raiden studied the hologram of Droke's warship. We hit the engines, he'll fall early, but if we miss, he hits the capital. Gerali stepped forward. Let me speak to him. Everyone turned. Hayes raised an eyebrow. You want to talk to Droke? Gerali nodded. He's Velari. He may listen to me. If I can distract him, even for a few minutes, it might give you the opening you need. Raiden looked unsure. It's too risky. Gerali said softly, but it might stop a massacre. Raiden exhaled. All right. We do both. Gerali opens contact. While she speaks, we move the strike team into position. They boarded a stealth shuttle heading straight toward orbit. From the window, Earth looked peaceful, clouds rolling across blue oceans. Gerali stared at it, wondering how one planet could be so violent and so beautiful at the same time. Inside the shuttle, she wore a thin comms headset, her voice being linked to Droke's main channel. Signal connected, the pilot confirmed. You're alive. Gerali took a breath. Commander Droke, she said calmly. This is Gerali of the Velari diplomatic wing. I asked to speak with you. For a moment only silence. Then a low voice responded, cold, sharp, the traitor. Child speaks. Gerali steadied her voice. You've caused too much death. Both of our people suffer because of you. I gave them a reason to fight, Droke growled. Weak alliances with humans will only destroy us. I gave the Velari a future by turning us into monsters? She asked. I made us strong. No, she said. You made us feared. While she spoke, the stealth shuttle neared the back of Droke's warship. Raiden and his team suited up carrying EMP launchers, explosives, and boarding tools. Keep him talking, Raiden whispered over comms. We're almost in. Gerali continued, your message has failed. The truth is out. Earth and the Velari now know what you are. Droke laughed. And still, they will fight. Because fear is stronger than peace. Gerali's eyes narrowed. Maybe for you, but not for me. Then die with them, he hissed. Suddenly, red lights filled the shuttle. Defense drones activated. The pilot shouted. They've spotted. U.S., Milo yelled. Raiden grabbed a rail. Go evasive. The shuttle rocked violently as blasts struck the hull. Raiden hit the release. Now? The strike team ejected in small, fast escape shells that slammed into the side of Droke's ship like arrows. Magnetic hooks locked on. Raiden and Milo broke through the outer hatch, storming into the lower engine bay. Blasters ready. Inside the warship, alarms rang. Velari mercenaries poured into the hallways, but the humans were faster. Raiden's team planted charges on key junctions. Milo hacked the power relays. Explosions rocked the ship from the inside. Droke roared through. Comes, traitors, I'll burn you all. Gerali replied, You've already lost, Droke. You just don't know it. She stood now in the shuttle, watching through the glass as Droke's ship began to tilt. Smoke poured from the engines. Inside, Raiden ran to the control deck and slotted in a virus chip one built by Aben Vega before he died. The ship's systems went black. Raiden yelled into his comms, Get us out now. The team ejected seconds before Droke's ship exploded in a ball of fire. The blast lit up the sky. Droke's body was never recovered. From the shuttle, Gerali watched the flame bloom in silence. Then she whispered, It's over. Raiden slumped into a seat beside her. Not yet, but it's close. Back on Earth, news spread fast. Drok's army collapsed. His remaining forces surrendered. And finally, a ceasefire was declared. Gerali stood before a mixed crowd of humans and Velari. She spoke calmly, with strength in her voice. We feared each other because we never truly saw each other. But I have walked beside humans. I have eaten their food, fought their enemies, felt their pain. And I say to my people, these humans are strange, but they are not monsters. Raiden stood beside her, arms folded, quietly proud, and across Earth, across the stars, the war slowly began to fade. But one question still remained. Would peace truly last? Weeks had passed since the war ended. The skies were quiet. No more explosions, no more running. Just rebuilding. In the capital city of New Geneva, human and Velari leaders gathered for a new beginning, the Unity Summit. It was the first joint peace meeting held between the two species since the truth was revealed. Gerali stood outside the glass hall, her lavender skin glowing gently under the earth sun. She wore traditional Velari robes mixed with a human-crafted sash symbolizing both her heritage and her new experience. Captain Raiden walked up beside her, his uniform crisp but relaxed. You ready? He asked. Gerali gave a soft smile. I've never been ready, but I go anyway, Raiden chuckled. That's very human of you. Inside, long tables had been set up, decorated with flowers and flags. Both species sat across. From each other, ambassadors, commanders, diplomats, even former soldiers. No weapons. Just words. As Gerali took her seat among the Velari delegates, she couldn't help but notice what was served at the center of every table. Food. And not just earth food or Velari nutrient gels. It was a shared meal. A symbol of peace. There were earth fruits, soft breads, and even a few animal dishes, though labeled clearly with small signs. Optional, ethically sourced, non-sentient species. Gerali stared at a roasted meat platter. She still remembered the buffalo, the thorn horn, the smell, the blood. Raiden caught her gaze from across the table. He gave her a small nod. No pressure, no expectation. Gerali reached instead for a golden earth fruit. She took a small bite. Sweet, juicy. She smiled. Then she stood. I would like to speak, she said aloud, her voice soft but steady. The room quieted. She looked around. I once saw humans kill a creature I thought was sacred. I saw them eat its flesh, laugh over its body. I thought they were heartless. A few human leaders shifted in their chairs, unsure where this was going. Gerali continued, but then I saw those same humans save a life, fight to protect someone they didn't even know, risk everything to stop a lie. And I learned something. She paused, then added, they are not monsters. They are just different. Now everyone leaned in. She smiled gently. And so are we? Raiden stood up next. We come from worlds apart. We eat different things. We think different thoughts. But today, we sit at the same table. That's what matters. He glanced at Gerali. It's time we stop trying to change each other and start trying to understand each other. Applause broke out. Both humans and Velari clapped together, and in that moment, the war felt like a distant memory. Later, after the summit ended, Gerali and Raiden walked in the garden outside. Flowers from both worlds bloomed under special biolights. The air smelled like a mix of alien herbs and earth roses. Raiden handed her a small package. What's this? She asked. He grinned. Earth tradition. When peace is made, we give gifts. She opened it carefully. Inside was a small sculpture hand-carved from wood. It showed a human hand and a Velari hand, holding a single fruit between them. Gerali touched it gently. It's beautiful, Raiden smiled. Just like peace, fragile, but worth protecting. She looked up at him. Will your people stop eating animals now? He laughed. Probably not, but more will think about it. And maybe, one day, we'll grow new ways. Gerali nodded. And maybe my people will learn not to fear everything we don't understand. They sat on a bench under the twin trees, one earth oak, one Valari light vine growing side by side. Strange how a war started with a meal, she said. Raiden looked at her. And ended with one too. That night, across Earth and Valari cities, people watched news feeds showing humans and aliens eating together, laughing, and trading gifts. Children on both planets drew pictures of peace. Old soldiers told stories of the battle, but also of the girl who had crossed the line. And somewhere in the forest, another horned beast wandered freely under the stars. Untouched. Because now, both species were watching.